It is Max and Kelley. How are you doing today? Like I haven't talked to you
for like 14 hours today already.
Yeah.
So anyway,
welcome to Creative Actors Lab. I'm Kelley. This is Max, and we are going to explore for actors and just people in general. What is the creative process? What is it that really gets your juices running? I know you've been doing a lot of research on creative theory.
Yeah. I guess, to be honest with you, you and I are really stepping out of our comfort zones to do this. And, you know, it's a bit awkward at first, but it's something you kind of, when we first started dating, it was awkward. And life has put you and I out of our comfort zones many times over. And somehow or another, we've found some creative way to get through it. And we have known each other a good minute and seen a good bit of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, the success of a relationship, for as long as you and I have had it, and we have had it, for as good, bad, or indifferent as our time together has been thus far, we've always, just as creative people, taken our skill set of creative ideas and apply them to our life. Even sometimes when that's, really a very difficult thing to do. That's, I think, how we've sustained and not just sustained, but we've grown over the years, because I have my creative process, you have your creative process, and we don't always agree, but we always listen to each other. And that is the best working relationship you could ever have. I don't care if it's for a marriage or a business partner or any amount of things, and I will say, so for that, I'm very grateful. And on that note, I am given to believe that you would like to ask me some questions, and you're certainly free to ask me whatever you wish for me to do. And I'm truthfully very excited about this.
I was excited last time when you interviewed me, because I'm like, oh, an interview, like I'm one of the cool kids.
Yeah, so just let fly, and I'm gonna
and I'm going old school because I hand wrote them down, so they're not on a computer anywhere, so it cannot crash unless I throw this away. Okay, so my first question is, who are your role models that inspire you?
Okay, when I was a kid, I can tell you, when I was 9 years old, Pablo Picasso, Leonardo da Vinci, Batman, Adam West, particularly as Batman, William Shatner as Captain Kirk, and all that corny stuff. But God, I mean, there's so many. To answer a question like that, I'm gonna, off the top of my head, go, this person, that person, that person, and that person, and then I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna finish the question and go, oh, I forgot about, but I just remember Pablo Picasso and Leonardo da Vinci when I was 9 years old, just being like, these guys are it. That's the best answer I have right now. I'm sure I'll have a better one in an hour from now after I
of course, at 3 a.m. when you wake up and go, I remember now. What 3 things do you wish more actors understood?
You need to love the process more than you love the finished product. Number one.
100% agree with that.
Get good at saving and budgeting your money and your resources in your practical life, because it really sucks to be brought in on a creative project and you're being distracted, like, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to put food on the table? This, that, and the other thing. So, learn some good financial sense and budgeting and things like that. And when the day comes that you're not having fun or being
Mhm.
challenged by it, when it's just something you're doing, go do something else that excites you.
Mhm.
And at some point or other, when
It'll
you
come
feel the
back.
passion come back, that's when you return. But,
Mhm.
just with acting in particular, you're just putting yourself out there. And if you're not feeling it for an extended period of time, then you really need to go do something that does excite your passion, whatever that may be.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely
Whatever
agree
art
with that.
form, or start a business, or, work for a charity, or any of that.
And I also think, people are like going, but you want to be doing the business 24/7. And I think I alluded to this last week. It's like you get to know your audience when you are in the real life situations that your audience is in. You have a much better gauge of what's going to appeal to them. If you are always in the world of the theater, you're always on a movie set and you're not really relating to people outside of that,
Yeah.
you're just you're
I
doing a
yes.
demonstration of what you
Yes.
think that real life is, but
Yes.
you're not living that real life.
Yes. In fact, I remember you and I having this exact same conversation before we were married, coming back from rehearsals from this little play we were doing. And I remember I had been involved so hardcore with doing so much theater, and doing like the school tours and children's theater and some kind of play and maybe somebody's short film. And I got so concentrated on doing so much acting. I remember you and I driving back from a rehearsal, and I remember I said something to you like, does it ever feel like we're spending too much time in this land of make believe,
Mhm.
and we need to, and we need to, check out our reality, and, make sure we have, food in our refrigerator, and, something in our bank account, and so forth. But
Change the kitty litter. That's a real
that's a
reality.
big one. Yes, that is definitely a big one.
That's
And
pretty
and
realistic.
things like that become very apparent once you start having kids.
Yes.
But I'm sorry, what was your question again? I've gotten
It was
tangential.
what are the three things you wish more actors understood? So that you've got to love the process,
Yes, thank you.
that you've got to really kind of be in the world, budget your money, make sure you understand.
Okay.
So then what would the third thing be?
Okay, thank you, because I can really go off on a tangent about these things. You know, I think and I would say this for really anybody, not just actors, whatever your creative process is, the whole idea is to find your personal creative process, what works for you, what doesn't. I think you have to be very mindful of the fact to not encroach upon other people's creativity. This argument comes up a lot between method actors and non-method actors. Um, you know, whatever your personal creative approaches, when it starts detracting from the people that you're working with, that's when you've got to regulate yourself. um I'll, I'll say this. I think the thing, you need to be extremely careful to not blur the lines between your personal self and whatever character you're playing, because when those lines start to blur, that's when it's going to get dangerous. It's going to affect your performance secondarily, but primarily you're going to hurt people around you that you probably don't intentionally mean to hurt. So yeah, just, you want to be a generous actor, but you need to do what you need to do to foster your own creative process. But when you sort of become a kind of a psychic vampire, have some kind of self-awareness of that and back off.
Yeah. You don't want to say,
so yeah.
I need you to do it like this so I can come back and do it like that.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah, no, that's
your job is not to direct the other actor, and you can't get that set and an interpretation that's you can't break out of
and
that.
frankly, that's just like life. If you try to control the people around you, letting them just be who they are, it's in the short term it may be easy, but in the long term it's going to get difficult.
All right. What
Okay.
are some bad recommendations that you hear people give actors?
I all great models have to make sacrifices, so give me $4,000
Yeah.
is one. Okay, there's a bunch of, particularly when it comes to camera acting, there's like a lot of specific directions, and you've got to be very focused. And
Mhm.
there's a real science to it, to and a logic and a geometry to camera acting. As far as where your eyes should be, where you should be looking. You got a guy with a big old, reflector over here and lights over here and a
And
microphone
yeah,
coming from down here and
or
all this,
above, yeah.
and just all this distracting stuff. Um, you know, it's very difficult, I think, especially for beginning actors, to not get lost in all of the technicality. Um, I keep hearing the acting direction being given of don't blink. Okay, I get it. I understand. It I okay. I get it. However, the thing you can really, in my opinion, as a director cannot do is say to somebody, I need you to not blink, or I need you to talk faster, or I need you to go slower, without providing them and their character some kind of psychological, emotional reasoning to go slower, to keep the micro muscles of your eyelids suspended open longer than normal. Um, I get the science of it, but when you lose the heart and the artistry of it, of why why you don't blink on camera, um, why you speak in certain tones, certain
Mhm.
intentional tones. Um, I get that. Um, but I think as a director, you have to give somebody the note of, I need you to go slower, I need you to not blink, blah, 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 whatever. But you've got to provide them with some kind of either psychological or emotional reasoning to do so. If you just go on the technique
Technical,
alone,
yeah.
it's going to result in a hollow performance.
Yeah.
And that onus is really on the director to do that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whenever I tell people we need to make it go a little faster, your character may be more agitated, so they may need to
yeah,
spot, or they may be getting more emotional and they're trying to find the words.
yeah. Or if I don't say this right now, this person I'm talking to is going to say, F you, I'm out of
Yeah.
here, and I'm walking out, and you're never going to chance with me again.
Yeah.
So there's that,
Give them
it's,
that.
the thing that I've heard so much in so many different directors use is giving your character a sense of urgency. Um, but there's got to be some kind of emotional, psychological baggage behind that in order to make that direction work for an actor. So, yes, and
All right. Well, we'll take a little bit of a break and then we'll be right back. All right. So now we are back. We have
we are.
more.
Oh, yeah,
We are, yeah,
have
this is your
actually
back,
we
and now we're
have
back to the
we
front.
have not left, but anyway.
We have not left. Um, so what's your favorite advice to give to actors?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Mm.
Don't take yourself too seriously. And again, when it stops being, as I said before, when it stops being fun or challenging or something educational, um, go do something else.
Mhm.
And I think also it's very important for actors to have interest totally outside of acting. I
Mhm.
don't care if it's economics, quantum physics, sculpture,
Cooking, sewing,
cooking, sewing, parachuting, swimming, running,
sculpture.
triathlon. Sculpture is a beautiful
Mhm.
thing. Have, some of the best actors, I found one quality that they share in common is that they have many interests outside of acting. they put themselves in social situations to where it's like they meet so many different other, kinds of people along the spectrum of humanity. Put yourself in that situation as much as possible.
I think that's just good work advice. I mean, how many
it's just life.
people have we, do you work with that their job, their 9 to 5 or, 11 to 7, whatever, that is it for them. So their desperation factor goes way up. And the idea of losing that job because they don't have any outside interests, faith groups, arts groups, things like that, all of a sudden they're kind of sabotaging other people because they're afraid to lose what they have, where there's the yes and being generous.
Yeah, well, there's something else. Let me just say that something I've noticed through so many of the students we've had over Zoom is we'll get into these pockets and concentrations of people who have spent many years in the military. I mean, 10 plus, 15, 20, sometimes 20 plus years. And we'll get like a bunch of these folks in like this one concentration. And the thing that I hear from every single one of these people is that when you're in the military, you've got stuff to do in a very formatted, regimented, scheduled, sort of, disciplined sort of a way. And then you get some time to yourself. And so, not everybody, obviously, but so many of the people who are in the military, he said with a stutter for so long, that when they get their time to be on their own, they want to go either play jazz or paint or, do some acting or write poetry or, pick up a camera and walk around the city and do photography or, or go, learn how to dance or something creative. And that to me has just been one of the most fascinating things about, all the students we've had over the past few years. And granted, there's been a lot of students in the past few years, and I'm so, if I may go off for a second to say, sincerely grateful I am for every single one of them, because I've learned so much. We've learned so much. If
you're one of our students listening to this, a sincere thank you.
Yeah,
because we learn as much from you guys. I think as you learn from us, and hopefully, I think we pick up more. I mean, that's the beauty of it.
It's extremely humbling.
What's the best advice that you got for acting in life?
As far as camera acting, just think it.
Yeah.
And okay, to concisely answer your question, the interview that we show with Bryan Cranston.
Yes.
And just, and the thing about it, it's a very kind of Taoist, Buddhist, Stoic kind of philosophy to it. It's like, you just do your work. You do, one does what they can, show up on time. If you're not 10 minutes early, then you're 15 minutes late, just show up on time, do your level best. And when it's done, and just walk away and, and enjoy that much. And if you don't get the job, which, statistically, most of the time you're not going to, don't take it personally, but you're just, that's how acting works. You might get maybe 1 out of 10 auditions, and those numbers fluctuate. So,
and that goes for people who are fairly well-known, established people.
It's everybody. I mean, this is how granted, I don't know everything about anything, but every story I've ever heard, I mean, this is how it goes. It's not just in the acting world, it's also in the corporate world. Or you've got 20 people applying for one job, 19 are going to get rejected, not because they're terrible people or they suck or they don't know what they're doing. It's a numbers game, and it comes into the law of averages. Eventually you're going to be successful if you persevere. And when you feel like you need to take a break and go focus on something else.
And sometimes that break can really recharge you, and because you're
Mhm.
so different, you can go, oh, if I tried this tactic, maybe this could be, I've done fundraising for, oh, man, a couple of
Many-
decades.
yeah.
And, I was able to bring a lot of what I do with acting into fundraising and doing events, having run shows and things like that.
Mhm.
And that really helped me. And people will go, how did you know to do that?
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
because, this is when you're running a show and then you have to run an event. A lot of it's very similar.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. No, it's
and, I mean, and
it's
you,
just dealing with a cacophony of dissimilar people. If I may say something,
you may,
I remember being a very young man, early 20s, in like one of the one of the lead non-singing roles at the Greater Miami Opera in the late 1980s. The production was called Bianca e Faliero by Rossini. I worked with a director by the name of Francesca Zambalo. I, to this day, continue to think back on everything she said and did with us. And I was like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. And one of the coolest things I ever saw is, we were in this grand opera and you had a symphony and a chorus and actors and a bunch of us, guys in suits of armor running around, like waving broadswords around and, making banshee noises and stuff. But there was one time she gave the entire company notes, and she's in front of like 120 or 150 people, giving all of us notes in like 5 different languages, and just going from one group and she's speaking in English and Spanish and French, and she's doing German, and I'm just looking at this woman going,
you're the one woman United Nations. You are amazing.
And I just went, man, that's who that's the kind of, I mean, I'm going to be the best Max Grimm director, but I just remember looking at her going, really, of all the inspirations I've ever had that I've ever met face to face and actually worked with shoulder to shoulder, putting some multi-million production, some together. I just sitting here speaking right now, I just feel very humbled.
Yeah, no, that is truly amazing. And
she runs a thing called the Glimmer Glass Festival.
Is that still in operation?
I believe so, and I sincerely hope so, because she was one of the absolute coolest people. And now that you're going to bring up the question, and I've had a moment to think about it, she was one of my greatest inspirations. So,
all right. So if you could have a gigantic billboard that could reach billions of people, what would it say and why?
You are not the problem, because there's so many people out there that need to know that they are not alone.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. I think that's, the beauty of, podcasts and Zoom and, social media, people are able to weigh in on things, but sometimes it's just, having someone right next to you to be able to talk and look in their eyes and say that.
And not judge.
And absolutely.
Shut up and listen. George Carlin said something about when you meet people one-on-one, if you look into their eyes, you can see the universe if you take a moment to look closely enough, or some paraphrased.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Okay, cool. And we are going to take a break, and we will be back in a few. All right, ready.
Bullshit.
For those of you wondering what he just did, that is a lot of script analysis from an actor
That's from an Andy Kaufman character.
Yes, which is
My lane, my lane,
my
my
line.
bullshit, bullshit,
Bullshit,
bullshit.
bullshit.
My lane, my lane, my.
And I mean, it's Andy Kaufman, but
Oh
to be
God.
honest with you, there's a lot of actors that's how they approach scripts. That's how they analyze the scripts.
Mhm.
They're not looking at objectives. They're not looking at obstacles. It's just me and everything else built
And I can go,
crap.
and you're going to say your lines, and I can think about what I'm going to have for dinner, and
Exactly.
what I need to, pick up at the grocery store on the way home or whatever. And
Yeah.
anyway,
definitely.
okay. Anyway,
Okay, so what's your favorite sandwich?
oh God. Okay, really? Oh, why do you ask me such difficult questions?
Yeah, all the other
Okay.
philosophical ones are fine.
I'll say this: the Medianoche from Pappy's Grill in downtown Atlanta, Pappy's Caribbean Grill. That, oh man, the club sandwich from the Red Elephant in Tallahassee, Florida, with honey mustard and a side of coleslaw. I love my tuna subs. Tuna on whole wheat with a ton of vegetables on it. Those things sustain me through many road trips. The hot pastrami and Swiss from what's the diner in Atlanta that has a comedy club next to it? It'll come to me once we finish doing this. The hot pastrami sandwich with Swiss, and you got the good mustard and all that sort of thing.
So is it safe to say you're a sandwich guy?
In fact, even today, I was driving in the car. I just had this thought about the peanut butter and jelly French toast waffle sandwich. Do you remember when we made that thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so that's entirely too long of an answer, but
how did a failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure?
Oh God. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Prior to meeting you, so many of my interpersonal, shall we say, relationships were in some way or other jacked up. Okay. And it's frankly all the mistakes I made with other ladies who it actually set me up, I think, in all those romantic amorous failures led me up to being ready to meet you and start what we've been carrying on with for officially 30 years, coming up on 35. So that's my answer.
From the point we started dating, and then we're coming up on 31 years married. It's crazy.
Well, October 15th, we're going to be 35 years.
Wow. So he remembers the date we met, the first date we met.
October 15th. It was a week after my 25th birthday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was doing the FIU Playwrights Festival.
FIU Playwrights Festival, then Raining Backwards. I was building the set, you were acting in it, and then we both did Robin Goodfellow with the Children's Theater, and that's when we fell in love.
Wow. All right.
Do you want to know what we had on our first date? We went to a Chinese restaurant.
You're so good at remembering.
And I had honey garlic chicken, and you had sesame chicken wings. And I remember when I looked at you and I said, "Do you want to split the fried rice?" And you went, "Yeah, we can split the fried rice." And I went, "She's the one. She's the one right there."
So kids, be open to splitting the fried rice.
Only if it's the love of your life, then go ahead and split the fried rice on your first
But
date.
you may not know that until you do split the fried rice.
But it's instinct. It's when you feel it here, when you get all sweaty and dewy on the forehead, and the heart starts palpitating, and you start splitting the fried rice, and you go, "Oh my God, I think I found her." Follow your gut, kids.
Yeah, there you go. You're so cute. Oh my God.
One does one.
Yes.
Okay. What
Um,
else you want to grill me about now,
okay.
Atticus
So,
Finch?
yeah. All right. I got more things I gotta ask you, Scout. Scout, let me tell you. So what fills you with joy?
Amber and Daniel.
Um, okay, you didn't even have to think. Okay.
The cats, and you and the chemistry of everything. I mean, there'll be times we'll be sitting across from the table at each other, and you will get your little bare self going about something, and I'll start watching all of the wheels turn in the head and the steam, and the steam and the fire in the belly. And I'll just look at it and I'll go, oh my God, after all these years, she still wants to speak to me. She still wants to share her ideas with me. That fills me with joy. That when Amber comes out and kisses me on top of the head, and and like last night, I read her a poem. I read her the Desiderata,
Oh yeah.
and she had never heard it before. And I said, this poem saved my life. And I read her the Desiderata, and then she kissed me on top of the head and said, "You're a wonderful father." That fills me with joy.
Yeah.
Danielle saying, "There's so few, young people like me that have parents like you to support me." That fills me with just. If I keep talking about it, I'm going to cry. So go ahead and ask me the next question before we get all goopy about it here.
Okay. All right. I want you to do a Shakespearean character in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York, and the dark clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now our brows are bound with victorious fleet, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, and our dreaded marches to delightful measures. Envisaged war had soothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting Bob's steeds to front the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly into a lady's chamber to the lascivious placing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for such sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I that am rudely stamped, and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, and sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I haul by him. Why I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to spy mine own shadow in the sun and descant upon my own deformity. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these farewell spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain and hate the yellow pleasure of these days. Thoughts I have laid, inductions dangerous by drunken prophecies, libels, and dreams to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hatred, one against the other. Is that enough?
No, I think you should really.
And therefore, since
Well, just want to take Richard III home and get him some Rice Krispie treats and some.
you don't want to do that, he'll bite you on the neck and kill you. And he will not realize why that's wrong.
Yeah, he won't. That's the thing. But wow, I'm like, oh, you poor guy.
Well, thank you. That's kind of, and then later in the play, when you come to see, it's like, when he just, and there's a whole scene with Lady Anne, and which is one of the, which by the way, any ladies out there looking for Shakespeare to do Lady Anne. But you just come to see what's so interesting is like, why the villain becomes the villain. It's because he's tried everything else and he's gotten crapped upon all the time. So it's like, okay, the one thing I can do well is screw people up to you because you deserve it, because you've done it to me.
And I think you bring up a good point. Just if you are playing villains, villains are not born. They don't come out of the womb going, twirling their mustache.
Villains are, I mean, they may have a predilection one way or the other, but ultimately villains are made.
Yeah.
Villains are shaped by the environment that surrounds them, particularly in their formative years. I mean, look at Batman and the Joker.
Mm-hmm. I like to use, particularly when I'm coaching younger kids, because they've seen The Incredibles, is 6 words that changed Buddy into Syndrome from being a little kid.
I work alone, buddy.
Yeah. Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
Yeah.
He went from wanting to be Incrediboy and I'm going to help you save the world to you're going to respect me because I've got power and I can destroy things and the people you love. And now you respect me. So I just think, if you're...
Well, the problem is, let me just wax philosophical for a second. That's when there's a very unclear perception between fear and respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where the villain loses it. It's like, it's like these people are respecting me. It's like, no, they're not. They're fearing you.
Yeah, they're fearing you.
They don't respect you. In fact, they have probably their respect factor is probably in like the 0 negative digits.
Exactly.
But you're misperceiving that. And that's where a lot of villains psychologically just... Yeah.
And then when they realize that they're not being respected, that's when they really lose it, because that's what they wanted all their life.
Just to be heard.
Just to be heard. All right. And last question.
Oh, boy.
What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
Do not mistake kindness for weakness. There are people out there who need to understand that, particularly the kind people and the people who would seek to take advantage of the kind people that they thought were weak. Mm-hmm. Stay curious and create art. Mm-hmm. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Mm-hmm. Every day, I don't care how short of a period it is, practice prayer, meditation, and gratitude. Mm-hmm. And as far as prayer goes, whatever you do or don't perceive, even if you're speaking to yourself as like a higher entity, whatever, prayer, meditation, gratitude. I don't care how bad life gets, do it every day, mm-hmm. 7 days a week for the rest of your life. And where there is life, there is hope. Mm-hmm. You are what you settle for. Mm-hmm. Always keep learning, always keep challenging, mm-hmm. but at the same time, be aware that there's a principle, there's a thing in the I Ching that says understanding the law of rest and motion, mm-hmm. and know when to be out there and when to be really kicking it and grinding it and whatever mm-hmm. the buzzword is these days. Know when to be out there and just learn how to apply your actions and your energies in effective ways, and know when to go take a walk, mm-hmm. and know when to go take a nap, and I love the term compassionate self-discipline. And if I were mm-hmm. to leave a legacy, that is one thing I will say I have taken many years to learn and acclimate to. The concept of compassion and self-discipline. Mm-hmm. It's really how you can be the most productive, mm-hmm. The whole no pain, no gain thing. And it's just, learn when to burn the candle at both ends and when to go eat a bunch of nachos and drink beer and go take a nap, and watch a silly movie and or go take a walk in the park. Just forget about what you feel like is being dictated to you. Just listen to yourself. To answer your question, if I were to boil it all down, all of what I just said, it comes down to the legacy I would leave is 2 words: know thyself. And,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
you're welcome. I mean, it's not like we're not going to see each other.
I know. I haven't, I'm thinking like these are interesting questions. I don't know that I've really asked you these before.
Good.
And, so I've learned some things. You've learned some things about Max and I over the last few podcasts. So, we just want to come and, bring you content about how to be creative, stimulate your ideas, stimulate your mind.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I have a very dear friend, and I'll just say this very briefly, who one night he and I were on the phone having some really deep, heartfelt conversation about something. And I said something to him, and I don't remember what the subject was, but I was like, okay, if this, then why that? And I got into that whole line of reasoning, and I just finished up and I shut my mouth, and he is silent for about 15 seconds, and he goes, damn, Max, you ask some difficult questions, but somebody has to. And I've just gotten to a point in my life to where that's what I do. And I feel like, particularly with actors, you have, or at least I have to be this way. Because the whole idea of in the old actor saying, there is strength and vulnerability. Getting people to that point is a very precious and tenuous and individualized sort of journey. And if you don't have the heart and the patience and the compassion for it, and the compassion and the passion for the art itself, if you don't have that, maybe leave it up to somebody else. Because I've seen too many fragile souls come into the world of acting and get their heart stepped on, and they never come back again, and that's a tragedy. So
so take from this journey acting just things that you can take and apply to your everyday life, and I think that's what I've always found to enrich, just being able to think on the fly. Improv's taught me how to think quickly on my feet. In front of a group of people. I have a presentation. Guess what? My PowerPoint's not working. And I have these stories I can tell you. And then that's your plan B. So, that's
you can apply this to every area of life.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've done things I've been in situations that have absolutely nothing to do with theater, nothing to do with acting, nothing to do with any of this. And I've gotten through some tricky situations, and somebody always walks up to me and goes, Max, you're a really good actor. And I went, yes, I am. And it had nothing to do with me learning lines and coping with the situation. I just coped with. Maybe these are podcasts for some of these war stories are podcasts for other times, but I'm acting to me. It has not always been easy, and sometimes it's been so bloody difficult. But I've learned from everything I've ever done. I've learned, and even if some of those lessons were hard, I could not have bought them in school. No amount of money could have ever bought me some of the lessons I learned actually being out there and really doing it. And for as difficult and sometimes embarrassing as it was, it's one of the best educations I've ever gotten.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time. So again, we're just trying to look at that creative journey and how we can help you and assist you with that. So once again, I'm Kelley Cody Grimm.
And I'm Mr. Kelley Cody Grimm.
Max. We are Creative Actors Lab. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Be well. Thank you.